right. So let's lock and load, people. Thank you for joining us again for our Facebook Lives. Today, we're planning our 2024-2025 Family Engagement Calendar. Now, while you may think this is going to be extremely complicated with 1,000 different rules and details and suggestions, it's not. I'm actually going to make it as easy as possible for you, but the goal is for you to make it work within these suggestions that I'm giving you, because they are simple, but they do take time. They're not going to be something that you do from one day to the next. It's going to take some planning, some coordination, some meetings, some assistance from our families, our coworkers. So please take note. And again, just like any suggestion that I make, recommendation that I make it yours. Hopefully it just sparks an idea. It gives you somewhere to go with it to make something work for you and for your school, okay? So let's jump right into it because it's very simple, but it's gonna take some time, okay? So number one, survey your audience. One of my biggest pet peeves with anyone working with students, parents, and our professionals is we never ask them what their needs are, what their challenges are, what their struggles are. And we tend to assume that we know. And I'll give you a for instance. We love to assume that our parents don't want to be involved because they don't show up for meetings. And that's false. If you're actually using my parents as an example, they never went to meetings. One, it was a language barrier. Two, they were working about 60 hours a week. They didn't have time to go to a meeting. But when the principals came to our house to talk to my parents, Mr. Ribbit, God rest his soul, would talk to my dad in Italian, and my dad would answer him in Spanish, to which then I would talk to my mom and say, that dude's Spanish is all jacked up. And my mom would laugh and she'd say, he's not speaking Spanish. I was like, well, I can tell because it's all jacked up. He was speaking Italian. That effort to connect with our family, my dad, my mom, helped my brother do well in school. Actually helped him get some scholarships, helped me do well too. So I want to make sure that we're aware that if we don't survey our audience, we don't know what their needs are, what their challenges are. But more importantly, I want you to survey your audience so that then you can make their needs, their wants, work with your objectives and your goals. Sometimes we just focus on what we need, what we want. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but that's why some of our families aren't showing up. Day one, we want to overwhelm them with information about the website, about the app, about attendance, about curriculum, about the importance of getting involved, about sports, about behavior, about all of these things in a 60-minute meeting. You're going to lose them in the first 10 minutes. So instead, let's find out what some of their needs are so that we can then incorporate that into our planning. Yes, while I'm doing this weird thing, one is about your needs and your objectives. The next meeting can be about something that they want. Maybe they want to learn how to better communicate with their child. That's a session that you can do. And if you're giving them something that they want, guess what? They're probably going to show up. And that's the biggest battle, getting them in the door. And if we're not giving them anything that they know, they understand, or they want, that's why they're not showing up. And if we're just assuming why they're not showing up, that's why we're not delivering what they need. So first and foremost, survey your audience needs, okay? Number two, complement your calendars. What do I mean by this? Complement your academic calendar, when school starts, testing, breaks. Complement your athletic calendar. What's the big sports day? I'm going to give you an idea for some of your planning, and I challenge anybody to try this out. And if you do, let me know how it works out. If you have a day like Friday Night Lights, I know Texas, I know how y'all roll with Friday Night Lights and football. What if your family engagement meeting took place 30 minutes before the game started? You already know your families are there. They're already coming. And what if you coordinated with your coach and said, could you please encourage your parents to come to this meeting first and save them a VIP section in the front area of the bleachers so they get a better view of the game? I might go to the meeting just to get the VIP section seating, but that's something that you're going to do to get them to come to your meetings. So complement your calendar too, because this has happened to me. oh, you know what, Ernesto, we were going to do this event on Friday, but it's prom. It's homecoming this weekend. It's pep rally week. Something comes up and they don't realize it. But if you plan in advance, you can avoid a lot of these roadblocks. Because what good is it to promote an event for months only to cancel it? Doesn't work well that way. So when I'm asking you to coordinate with your calendars, look at what events are coming up, testing dates, breaks, vacations, anything like that. But make sure you're complementing your calendar too, because let's say testing is in November or May for an example, okay? What if your session dealt on test anxiety and how you as a parent can help encourage and support your child? What if your family engagement asked our parents or families or caregivers to write a letter to motivate their student that will be given to them the day of testing? You'd be amazed at how much that letter can encourage a student, make you feel better, maybe even calm your nerves. So make sure that you're complementing your calendars, okay? Number 3, update your programming format. Now I'm going to say something and it's going to offend some of you. If you know me, you're already used to it. If you don't, start getting used to it. Some of our families aren't coming to your meetings because they don't feel it's worth it. They're not getting content that's helping them. They're kind of boring. And I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm just trying to be honest with you. You have to evaluate this, look at this, understand this. When I say update your programming format, I'm giving you a few ideas here, okay? So number 1, what if you delivered virtually, in person, and maybe even a hybrid? What if instead of just doing the usual, well, today the principal's here to give the welcome and then leave as soon as they're done with the welcome. I'd rather you have a teacher give the welcome that's going to stay and cares to build that relationship with our families. I'd rather someone else like a coach, an influencer from your campus, a teacher, a coach, a counselor, does the welcome and stays to build a relationship with our families, okay? So when I say update your programming too, it's the delivery method. You cannot do the same thing you've been doing and expect better results, better turnout, more engagement. You have to change that. Some of you already know this, but if you don't, the 60-40 rule for Cool Speak. Your audience should be speaking 60% of the time, and you should be speaking 40% of the time. And that changes everything, because if you're speaking lesser, guess what? Your audience is going to be speaking more. And I'm going to tell you this because I've seen it over and over again. It breaks my heart to see our parents get to a meeting 15 minutes early, to wait 10 more minutes after the start time. So they've been sitting there for approximately 25 minutes before anything happens. And then you start, and that parent hasn't said a single word until they leave. How many of you like to go sit there and just be lectured at? Start changing that. Use round tables, set it up differently. Maybe even you go meet them at where they're at, okay? So again, even consider the length of the time. I told you if you're going to do something before a sports game, even if it's just a 30-minute meeting, but make them quick. What if you did them bi-weekly? 30 minutes, you're good. You can make it happen. That information will still get to them. They don't like coming sometimes because it's too long. We say we want them for an hour, and then because somebody else hijacked our meeting and started talking for 20 minutes when they weren't supposed to, that meeting lasts an hour and a half. And the content that they needed could have been given in about 20 minutes. They don't want to come back to that, okay? So update your programming format. Number 4, plan out your entire school year. I know this sounds overwhelming, but hear me out. 1, if you do so, you can be much more consistent. So for example, we're trying to lead by example with our Facebook Lives. We're trying to do the first Tuesday of every month at 7:30 Eastern. That's what we try to do. Now, what I want you to do for your family engagement programming is do something similar. Okay, the first Monday, the first Tuesday, the first Wednesday, you pick a time. But maybe, and we did this during COVID with a client, you do hybrid. The beginning of the month, it's a virtual. The middle of the month, it's an in-person. I mean, it can switch schools, it can switch dates, it can switch venues. You can do that, okay? But by planning out your entire school year, here's something else that you can do. You probably won't hear this often from vendors like us. You might be able to save yourself some money. You can do some bulk purchasing. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're going to go with one company to help you with your family engagement. And let's just say you're going to bring us out 3 times in a year. But if you say, hey, can you come out at the beginning of the school year? That's one event, one price, one trip for us. The pricing might be different than if you say, hey, we plan on bringing you out 3 times this school year. Can we get some sort of deal because of that? And guess what? You can with cool. Top of that, if you really want to save money, let me let you in on some inside scoop from vendors again. A company like us, you're allowed to come in. We could work with your students in the morning, with your professionals in the afternoon, and our families in the evening. Those are 3 events. I guarantee you we're not going to charge you the same amount of money for each one of those 3 events. It's going to save you a lot of money. So consistency, saving money, and of course for marketing and awareness. If you plan out the entire school year, what if I came in for meeting number 1? Meeting number 1. And I've said this before, and I hope you've been taking note. Meeting number 1 should focus on building a relationship, on building community, on understanding who we are, what pushes us, what motivates us, what drives us. That should be meeting number 1. But also, after meeting number 1, you leave with a calendar of events for the entire school year. One month I'm going to do X, another month I'm going to do Y, so on and so forth. I'm actually going to provide a document for you all later, and we'll include it in our Facebook Family Engagement Hub, where I give you a sample calendar of planning out your entire school year. Give you some themes that you can base each month upon. Okay. Now, if I have that from the get-go, I might start marking some days off on my calendar. You want to take it to the next level? Teach our students how to use, our parents, sorry about that, our caregivers, how to use their smartphones. Most of them have a smartphone. Let's just say it's an Apple smartphone, and really quickly, Siri, on Tuesday, February, whatever date, I have a meeting at this date. Put it in my calendar. Give me a reminder. We're going to learn about X. We're going to learn about Y. You can put that in there, and it'll make it easier for them to remember. And it's going to complement what you're doing, obviously, because guess what? That phone call, that email, that snail mail, that smoke signal, whatever it is you're sending out to remind their families to come to meetings, they have one themselves. And if they can start conditioning themselves to learn how to attend meetings, certain times, certain days, it's one less thing you need to worry about. Okay. Number 5. Here's the one where I don't know if we're doing a great job, and I think we try to evaluate a whole school year. Evaluate and adjust accordingly. Sometimes for us in our programming, if it's a 2-day program, let's say, we'll take the evaluations from day 1 and take it into consideration and make any changes that are needed for day 2. You can do so as well with your family engagement programming. Evaluate the venue, evaluate the time frame, evaluate the food, evaluate the topics. Try to evaluate everything that you can so that it helps you, but don't just evaluate so that you can write it in a report. Evaluate so that you can take that information, make the changes, and adjust accordingly. That's what's going to improve your family engagement. If you're listening to them, if you're giving them something that they want, if you're adjusting according to what they're saying, now I feel appreciated. Now I feel noticed. Now I feel heard. And that's what our families want. I'm going to give you a simple technique for an evaluation that's one of my favorites. A 1-minute paper. I know, sounds awkward. 1-minute paper. Now this can be done in video or in writing. And if you want to, you can try both. What do I mean by a 1-minute paper? At the end of each meeting, just ask our families, as a group, as a pair, as an individual, however it might be, in 1 minute, what worked well? What could we have done better? That's it. What worked well? What could we have done better? If you want to use it for social media purposes to promote your upcoming events, record it. What went well? What could we do better? I'm going to tell you from my own personal experience and my own likings and scrollings. When I see something that's real, when I see you saying, I didn't do well here, I could improve here, I actually pay more attention because it's real. It's honest. When I see you telling me this was the best event that's ever existed on planet Earth and everyone said that it was amazing and that it was the best thing ever and that you missed out, makes me double think. Was it really? Did everybody really feel that way? Is that what everybody really said? I don't know if that's the case. So let me give you a quick recap again. 1, survey your audience. 2, complement your calendars. Academic, sports, dances, everything. 3, update your programming format. How you deliver, what you deliver, where you deliver. 4, plan out your entire school year, beginning to end. And that end one, let's make it a celebration for participating and for making it across that finish line for that school year. And number 5, evaluate and adjust accordingly. Make sure you're taking that information to make the changes needed to improve your family engagement. These are 5 simple things, but they do take time. They do take effort and they do take energy. But I promise you that if you try these, you implement these, things will gradually start improving. And guess what? Attendance might increase. Compliments might increase. More importantly, graduation might increase. Please share this information with anybody that you feel could benefit from it. And thank you for tuning in to today's Facebook Live, and we'll see you next month. Take care, everybody.